Presumptive President Bongbong Marcos has started forming his would-be cabinet, with running mate Sara Duterte seen taking over the Education Department. Congratulations are starting to pour in from other world leaders for the country's conduct of the 2022 elections. The Office of Vice President Leni Robredo vows to make the transition to the next government as smooth as possible. A U.S. official is raising grave concerns over the possible overturning of the landmark case of Roe versus Wade, saying it can have very damaging effects on the U.S. economy. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Sean Yao. What will the cabinet look like under a Marcos Jr. administration? A final list has yet to be released, but a close ally of presumptive Vice President Sara Duterte Carpio has dropped some names. The details in this report by Marian Enriquez.
With partial and unofficial tallies showing his landslide victory, presumptive President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. hints that his cabinet team is already shaping up. For starters, he picked presumptive Vice President Sara Duterte Carpio to be the next education chief. A challenge that Duterte gladly accepted, noting her plans to produce skilled learners that will advocate peace and discipline.
Siyempre, you would prefer a teacher, or someone from education sector or from the academy, to head the Department of Education. But also we recognize that the appointment is or the appointing powers is rests on the powers of the president.
Duterte Carpio's ally, Albay 2nd District Representative Joey Salceda, also has some guesses on who might be part of the incoming cabinet.
For energy, I see Mikey Arroyo. I would say for health, I hear Edson Salbana, and of course for justice, probably it's Rodante Marcoleta because he withdrew. He's not candidate, is not under the one-year rule. For public works, I hear two names, basically Alpenco and the incumbent, which is Congressman Mercado. Is the secretary. Tugade is probably the only carryover secretary for transportation. So I see a lot of lists that are floating around.
But besides these, Marcos Jr. says the economic crisis will be the utmost priority for the next several years.
The economic managers are going to be critical for the next several years because of the pandemic and the economic crisis. So that is something that we are looking at very carefully.
Marcos is set to take over an economy that has to deal with elevated levels of inflation and mounting debt. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
And a group of teachers expressed worry over the news of Mayor Sara Duterte possibly becoming the next education secretary. Marian Enriquez returns with this story.
Philippines needs a future generation of Filipinos that will advocate peace and discipline in the communities. This was presumptive Vice President Sara Duterte's message after being announced as the next education secretary under the Marcos administration. In a statement, Inday Sara thanked her running mate, Bongbong Marcos. She also clarified previous talks about becoming the head of the Department of National Defense. For its part, the Education Department welcomes Sara's appointment. Education Secretary Leonor Briones said the DepEd will be in good hands once Inday Sara heads the agency. But a group of teachers expressed reservations.
Siyempre, you would prefer a teacher, or someone from education sector or from the academy, to head the Department of Education. But also we recognize that the appointment is or the appointing powers is rests on the powers of the president.
They call on the next DepEd secretary to heed the plight of school teachers and recognize the learning crisis and poor quality of education in the country.
Paano i-address yung napakalaking bilang ng mga estudyante na hindi marunong magbasa, magsulat? papaano isasaayos yung ating curriculum, no? Napaka-problematic sa ngayon. At panghuli siguro ay paano niya i-address yung mga problema na kinakarap ng ating mga teachers. Una, sweldo. Pangalawa, benepisyo. Pangatlo, yung napakadaming task na pinapasan ng ating mga teachers na hindi na sila nakakapagturo ng maayos.
Senate Basic Education Committee Chairman Win Gatchalian said that Inday Sara has the power to reform the education system.
She's given more than 60% of the votes. In terms of political capital, that's huge. That's a lot of political capital that she can use to reform our education system.
The Education Department under the Constitution should always receive the highest budget allocation. But in the past years, experts raised concerns over the Philippines' poor ranking in international assessments, which has also been aggravated by the effects of the pandemic. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
U.S. President Joe Biden has congratulated Bongbong Marcos for leading in the 2022 elections. During the call, Biden said he anticipates improved relations with the Philippines on key issues, including human rights. For his part, the presumptive president assured Biden that the country regards the United States as an ally and partner. Meanwhile, Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Huang Xilian, has also reached out to Marcos Jr. on behalf of Beijing. Huang said that China is looking forward to work with the next Philippine president. He is also confident that the relationship between Beijing and Manila will further strengthen under a Marcos administration. And Canada's ambassador to the Philippines has likewise congratulated the Philippines for the conduct of the 2022 elections. Representatives from other nations have likewise sent the country its congratulations for the just concluded national polls. Australian ambassador to the Philippines, Stephen Robinson, says Australian officials are looking forward to working with our newly elected leaders. The ambassador of Japan in the Philippines also says that he is looking forward to working with the new administration. His Excellency Koshikawa Kazuhiko says that he is honored to have witnessed the country's latest exercise of democracy. And actor Robin Padilla remains in the top spot with over 13 million votes in the May 2022 senatorial race. Based on the partial and official tally of the National Board of Canvassers, Padilla has so far gotten 13.2 million votes. He is closely followed by Congresswoman Loren Legarda and broadcast journalist Rafi Tulfo, who both have over 12 million votes. Behind the top three are re-electionist Senator Win Gatchalian, Sorsogon Governor Cheese Escudero, and Congressman Alan Peter Cayetano. In seventh place is former DPWH Secretary Mark Villar with more than 9 million votes. He is followed by re-electionist Senators Mig Zubiri and Joel Villanueva. In 10th and 11th place are former Senator J.V. Ejercito and re-electionist Senator Risa Ontiveros. Rounding off the Magic 12 is former Senator Jinggoy Estrada with over 7 million votes so far. And the Office of the Vice President says it is also ready to transition to the next administration. OVP spokesperson Barry Gutierrez tells 1PH's Sa Totoo Lang that they want to make the transition process as smooth and as easy as possible. Meanwhile, Gutierrez says incumbent Vice President Leni Robredo might focus on spending more time with her family first once her term ends.
Well, naghahanda na rin. Unang-una, kailangan siyempre maayos ang lagay ng opisina para sa katapusan ng termino ni VP Leni sa June 30. Sa akin pagkakaalam, hindi pa naman nag-reach out anybody. Tama lang dahil wala pa naman proklamasyon na nangyayari. But definitely yung OVP bilang opisina ay handa na at patuloy na naghahanda for the transition.
And in the same program, Gutierrez said that Robredo's camp will be working with experts to address concerns regarding the results of the elections. Gutierrez says their camp is also hoping that the COMELEC will probe numerous reports of supposed anomalies on Election Day.
Una, may mga lingering na mga katanungan tungkol doon sa proseso ng eleksyon, and we would very much like for COMELEC to address itong mga bagay na ito. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na kino-question namin yung resulta sa puntong ito, pero may mga katanungan tungkol doon sa mga nasirang mga BCM. Sa dulo, kung ano man ang magiging resulta, ano man ang magiging pasya ng ating mga kababayan sa eleksyong ito, handang-handa naman tayong tanggapin. Pero hintayin natin.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warns that overturning the historic Roe versus Wade would, quote, set women back decades and would have very damaging effects on the American economy. The landmark ruling in 1973 protects women's liberty to choose to have abortions in the United States. More on that in this Bloomberg Quick Take.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, welcome. So, Secretary Yellen, if the draft of the court's majority holding in Roe versus Wade is the actual decision, what impact will the loss of abortion access mean economically for women?
Well, I believe that eliminating the right of women to make decisions about when and whether to have children would have very damaging effects on the economy and would set women back decades. Roe v. Wade and access to reproductive health care, including abortion, helped lead to increased labor force participation. It enabled many women to finish school. That increased their earning potential. It allowed women to plan and balance their families and careers. And research also shows that it had a favorable impact on the well-being and earnings of children. There are many research studies that have been done over the years looking at the economic impacts of access or lack thereof to abortion, and it makes clear that denying women access to abortion increase their odds of living in poverty.
From Minnesota, from her office.
And here are the stories to watch out for later today. A so-called Black Friday protest will be happening at the PICC this morning as groups cry foul over alleged electoral fraud in the May 9 polls. Miss Universe Philippines Celeste Cortesi will be making the rounds at the Makati Medical Center. This is in light of Miss Universe organization's joint advocacy with the Embassy of Israel to provide free healthcare packages for indigent women. And it all ends today for the UAAP Season 84 Men's Basketball Tournament as UP and Ateneo fight it out in a do-or-die Finals Game 3. And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 9 a.m. as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Sean Yao. Masks on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.